we're here. I made it. I got some Wi-Fi so I could do the stream here. I tried to do it from my phone, but the data wasn't strong enough. It wouldn't connect. So yeah, I got a little car accident just a minute ago. Wasn't cool. Trying to make a turn, I slid off into the gravel and almost hit a sign, but luckily I'm in a previous life, I was a Fast and Furious driver, and I was able to swerve off 130 kilometers an hour and no major damage. Everyone was okay. I was able to slide back onto the other roads, did a little Tokyo drift, but it was hella scary for my family, and I wished I didn't have to engage that. And it was because I was tired, and my wife had her GPS on, I didn't see it, we missed a turn, and anyway, we're coming from Mount Rushmore. If you check out my stories, I shared photos, just my luck. The day we go to Mount Rushmore, of course, the day that we go to Mount Rushmore, the fog is so thick, you cannot see it at all. So we went to the base of it and all that, and nothing. Just completely shrouded in mist. So that sucked. But it's been a bad couple of days, not in the stocks. I mean, for anyone who's short like I am, it's getting closer to reality. It's starting to correct a little bit. But I have this version of COVID now, or I don't know if I do or not, but it's my sinuses. I have every symptom. It's like I have a gastro bug mixed with the worst cold I've ever had, mixed with the worst headaches I've ever had. And so like sinuses are all clogged, can't breathe, chest infected, like coughing. Just a really, really bad time to be traveling on the road back from Vancouver, a 5-day drive with 3 kids who are now also sick, but oddly not that sick, which makes me think it's probably COVID because kids are pretty much immune. And I've had it before. I've had COVID twice now, and one time PCR tested positive, like I had immunity and antibody response, but that's like a year and a half ago. So I guess those immunities have sort of worn off, or this is a new variant because it's kicking my ass. And some people have asked me, like, hey, Mike, do you think now that you've had it a couple times, like, do you see why everyone locked down? Like all my leftist friends, like, do you see why? Like, do you see why we were right? And I'm like, you guys are still admitting you were right? I'm still waiting for an apology. Like it was like 1930s Nazi Germany locking people up in Canada. In Ontario, you couldn't even go to the movie theater, Home Depot, grocery store. You couldn't go anywhere. Couldn't do anything. Locked in your house. People were calling each other. Like literally you were walking outside your house on a nature trail, outside by yourself, and they were calling on you, be like, go give him a ticket. But he's walking by himself outside. It's like, what? Why did that make any sense to close down outdoor parks and nature trails by yourself? The Canadian government was so... Anyway, I don't want to go down that. I don't want to go down that because I think that was fucked. There's no other word for it. Suffice to say, I mean, it's shitty. And like, I think if you're old or at risk, you should protect yourself. And there should have been protections in place for those people, specifically the hospitals in Canada. The amount of money we spent trying to COVID-proof them, we could have just built or rented and leased and quickly set up COVID treatment centers and kept COVID out of the hospitals entirely to protect those who are at risk. And then those who are also vulnerable, which is like the old age homes and stuff, again, really easy to protect those who are at risk without isolating the entire population who's majority healthy. But I had some friends, who are on the left side be like, yo, Mike for prime minister, because they just disagree entirely. It wouldn't have been an easy job. I mean, there's no way about it, but sorry guys. I'm trying to use whatever voice I have here to give you guys what I can. But I'm always here. I've been doing this live stream for 5-6 years now, and I've never missed one, ever. I did it, if you go back a year and a half ago when I had COVID, before I was live on the stream when I had COVID, head pounding, whatever, like I'm there. And we're rushing back, and like that's also part of why I got in the little accident that happened. I'm so thankful that like when I was 16, I took advanced driver training, skid training. So they would put like ice and they would put like soap and stuff on pavement. We had to learn how to like get in amazing like crashes and stuff and learn how to drift. So that training probably saved our lives today, to be honest, and probably saved my car at least, because I was able to avoid pretty much all damage. I slid down like across a road forking around the whole bend, like probably 100 feet, and I managed to stay out of the ditch and off the road all at the same time on gravel sideways, which was pretty cool when you think of it that way. But super dangerous. I never want to go through that again. So that was fucked. And I wish my family wasn't with me through that because that was horrible. I'm gonna start doing a lot shorter days or take a day off because I can't push myself here. My wife's feeling better than I am, and so it's maybe she can drive a couple hours, but I don't think we should be pushing ourselves. I might have to delay this trip a little longer. I've got my newer cottage, mansion cottage project closing Monday morning first thing, and I really wanted to get back Friday to prepare for that. So delaying not being here is costing me on a few jobs and a few things, a few $1,000s, but what's $5,000 or $10,000, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. Health is wealth, right? It's whenever you're really sick, something I really like as you get out of that sickness, it's just like a moment of clarity where you realize how important health is. Like if I gave you the option right now to trade with Warren Buffett, one of the richest men in the world, and like obviously arguably, I don't know who would argue against it, but one of the most successful investors of all time, would you trade places with him? And like almost everyone would be like, no, because I'd be like 92 years old and about to die. And so it just shows that like all the money in the world, literally all the money in the world, doesn't mean anything if you don't have your health. So that's why when we talk about financial independence as a whole, we talk about the sphere of living a good life, the center, the ethos of that is this ability to be able to delay things. And so I'm thankful that I can put those projects on hold. Like I have a bunch of projects at home that need me right now, a couple of renovation projects, and I have some other stuff going on, but that's okay. You know, what's a couple extra nights of hotel? I can slow down the trip. I was gonna try to be back for Wednesday, Thursday. At best, I'll be back for Friday, maybe Sunday now at this point. We'll see. If I make like a miraculous recovery, I'm gonna go to the store tonight. I'm gonna buy a ton of echinacea, garlic, onion. Like I'm a naturalist. My mom's a naturalist. I grew up with that. So she's like sending me messages. She's like, why are you taking colloidal silver? And like, why aren't you taking this and that? And sending me all the things that we used to take as kids. And it's strange because I know some of these people who have never been sick ever because they subscribe to these natural remedies. So yeah, who knows? Who knows what the secret is? All right, let's do some Q&A for you guys. And then I'm gonna wrap it up a little early tonight because I'm not feeling my best, but I wanted to show that I've never missed an episode yet. I'm never gonna miss a stream. It happens every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is like, I think like 5 something this time zone where I am right now. And I'm like just outside of Mount Rushmore. I pulled off like the first city here, got some Wi-Fi. Beautiful museum and stuff there though. There's a lot of great moments along the way that I've been able to capture, which have, if I wasn't so sick, would be just like game changer. But okay. Hello from Alberta. What are your top things to do before listing your house? Well, there's a lot of things you have to do before listing your house, but really think about things that are going to increase the value, right, to the buyer. And so things like landscaping, staging, good quality photos, paint touch-ups, cheap, easy things you can do. Like just if you have tenants, getting them to clean up really, really well. You know, it might be worth even like incentivizing your tenants, bribing them with some gift cards that you can tax deduct and write off, but that will help your sale price if they're cooperative. You know, all those kinds of things you can do that really make a big difference when you're trying to list your house for top dollar, right? So there's lots of things you can do to maximize that value, but it depends on, like it's hard for me to give you, David, a simple answer, right? Because every property is different, right? And you know, it's one of those things where if your property is like has an unfinished basement, I would say that's ripe for finishing before you sell. But again, that's a huge commitment of capital, and you have to see whether in your area that makes sense. Is that a good ROI or not? But anything that's a really high ROI, like landscaping, painting, staging, those are easy ones, I would say. Sometimes doing things like a roof can make a difference. If your roof's really old and it's the reason your house isn't selling, just depends. Are we talking about the movies? I wish. No, my real life, it's like a drama. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate that. Omega says, hey, man, don't go to the cinema. You'll get very sick, bro. I have 3 kids, right? So on a trip, they're touching everything at every hotel. They're going to every park. I went to a wedding in Vancouver, and so there was a lot of things that I did that put me at risk. Seeing other people puts you at risk, right? Like living life puts you at risk. And what we can do is try to wash our hands. But my little kids, like my middle child, she will grab anything and touch everything, and then she'll just suck on her fingers. Like it's just, we try our best, but it's impossible to not be sick with 3 young kids. And then there's like no worse torture, I think, as a person, as a human being. Like, it's worse than Chinese waterboard torture, I think, is trying to do a road trip with 3 kids across the country while both parents are extremely ill. And like, we already had booked hotels for the stops along the way, so it was impossible to change so we're like, we have now been able to modify. I was able to call in and modify some of our hotels, but like, we had to do some 5-hour, 6-hour push days, and it was brutal, man. We were stopping at every gas station, like to run to the bathroom, and like, it's not been enjoyable. The kids are just screaming, and like, when you have a pounding headache, there's nothing worse than like one kid starts screaming, another one chimes in, starts screaming, and for like 40 minutes, it's just like screaming, and your head's already pounding, and you're driving, and the traffic's shit, and it starts raining, which we had a lot of rain the last couple days. Luckily, not a lot of forest fire smoke. We've been lucky. Just as it came into Calgary, we went through the mountains and it was clear, so we were able to avoid almost all of the smoke from the wildfires and stuff. So that's been blessed in that way. But the good with the bad, right? There's been a lot of things that have been a challenge through this trip, and I think in the future we will fly if we do a long trip like this. Joe probably have another variant, yeah, likely. Yeah, totalitarian government. In some ways, yes, right? In the pursuit of, the best for everyone, they limit the freedoms and the rights of everyone. And so in a lot of ways, I think, socialism maybe is good for the bottom half, but it comes at such an expense for the top half that we actually be able to use that freedom, right? If you're poor and you have nothing and you're like mentally ill, okay, like, freedom doesn't mean shit to you because you're broke and you're starving and like you need government housing and a government social worker to walk behind you. I had a tenant once that had 3 social workers. Like, he needed constant 24-hour supervision. He needed 3 full-time staff and 4 full-time staff just to help him function in life. Like, he needed 4 full-time people to help one person function, and not function well. Like, between drug binges and hospital visits, like, that was him like not killing anyone and not killing himself. There are some people out there who just like, they just have a hard time living in society. And so some of these people, and that's an extreme case. There are people who are much more functioning. I think something like 25% of people have mental illness, right? So 1 in 4 people you meet have, depression or anxiety or some sort of, maybe it's not entirely debilitating, but some sort of mental illness, right? So people are fucked, and it's at higher rates now than it ever has been, and probably in large part due to social media and a number of other cultural issues. But the appeal of socialism, I think, is so strong now because it's the easy way out, right? Like, instead of pulling your ass up by your bootstraps and fixing what's wrong with yourself and saying, hey, identifying there's a problem here and I need to move forward and starting to make progress and I think anchoring your measure stick in life to how many people you can help and about being good for other people. If you have that mindset, I think you'll do a lot better in life. And I think that a lot of the socialists don't have that mindset. They disguise under under that thought that they're there to help other people. But in reality, I meet very few hyper-productive, hyper-generous, and valuable? People who can produce a lot for society. I meet almost none of them that are socialist. So everyone that can carry the boats and that we need in our society to carry the boats, I've never met any of those people who are socialist. They're always right-leaning. Again, because there needs to be incentive there for them to carry the boats for everyone. And we want them to carry the boats. There are some people in society who just can't carry any boats, to use this metaphor, right? So I don't know. I never think it's right to limit freedoms. And so more and more, I just want my own little villages, my own little community, my own little tiny house resort community where we're all of like mind and free. Sorry, I was trying to hold that in, but couldn't hold it in anymore. All right. Holy, it was snowing in Alberta. That's crazy. Where are you driving? So we're driving back from Vancouver. We went through like Yellowstone, and now we're into like Mount Rushmore, and we're in South Dakota right now. We're gonna make our way back into Ontario and Canada. We drove all the way across Canada on our trip out west to Vancouver. We had a whole bunch of cool experiences on the way there, and it was a trip I'll never forget. The way back has been nothing short of hell. It's been brutal. I wish, like, there were many nights. Well, the night before last, I was in bed, curled up, being like, "Mommy, mommy," like it was bad. It was bad. I wished I was at home. I wished my mom was nearby. Like it was that bad. Um, Not that my mom's that great to be around when I'm sick, but you know what I mean. The theory is that like I just need to be home, and being on the road and changing hotels is just brutal, just absolutely the worst. If I had a nanny or something, so they could watch the three kids, so I could just sleep. Like I think I was up every hour last night with them being sick too and everything. It's crazy, right? Like how I'm still alive. I think I slept like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 30 minutes. I was up for an hour, slept for 30 minutes, 30 minutes. Like it was never like I didn't get 6 or 8 hours sleep. Like kick COVID's ass in a second if I could get a good night's sleep. But we're getting close. As soon as I get home, I'm gonna have the freedom to do that. A lot of these ideas are really great, by the way. Like hiring a driver is great. But where am I gonna find that? Right in the middle of Mount Rushmore here. Like really the solution is I might just take a day and rest, or try to compress the days down shorter and do what I'm comfortable doing, and then rest more because I need to get some more sleep here. All right. Grinder, thank you for the kind words. Let's see, property, how much money do you take out? Thank you. It just really depends, I think, to answer your question. Like, there are so many different strategies for refinancing. I can't give you one that's better than say another, right? Like, are you doing an A-lender refinance? Are you doing a B-lender refinance? What kind of property is it? If it's a commercial property or a residential property, there's totally different procedures. But my line of thought is this: take out as much as you possibly can at these rates, because you can still borrow at 5, 6, 7% all day in Canada. And that's basically free money. I think the government's going to fail at their target inflation rate. And so my thesis is still that real estate levered will outperform over the next 5 years, will outperform hard any other asset class. So that's my thesis. I'm also shorting the NASDAQ. I'm shorting tech because I think tech valuations are out to lunch. And so I still have that short on, which has done better. I was too sick the last 2 days to watch it in my trading account. So I closed to neutral on that trading account Friday about 3 o'clock. And it just started fall. If you check like Friday at 2 o'clock or whatever, when I closed it out, you can watch the NASDAQ go from or the QQQ, which is the representation of the NASDAQ that I trade. You can watch it go from like 273 down to like 261. I was like, are you friggin' kidding me? It drops 3%, and I was 3-1. So like that's a 9% portfolio opportunity that I missed. But it's okay. I still have my short on in my other brokerage account, and I'm just not touching that one. So I've still made 6 figures between Monday and today on my NASDAQ short. And I don't think it's done yet. I don't know what top is. Someone asked, I saw the comment pop up, where's the top? I don't know. We hit 39% up on the year to date. It was 45% off the lows 8 months ago in the fall. It's really hard to predict a top and a bottom. You just can't do it accurately. What I will say is that 200 price to like a 200 price to earnings ratio or 10 plus times annual revenue trading multiples are very, very rosy situations. And the only way those situations happen and come to fruition where that value is justified is if a bunch of really good things happen for these tech companies and nothing bad happens in the next 5 years. So it has to be only best case scenarios, like 50% growth, 50% growth, 50% growth, 50% growth, 50% growth, 50% growth every single year. And there's no competitors that come in and start eating NVIDIA's lunch, as an example. Intel doesn't figure shit out. Another competitor doesn't come in and figure shit out. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, will NVIDIA be the hardware and software king of AI? I don't know. I think, there's a lot of hype around this. And AI is a great tool. Love it. I think that there's a lot of future behind using it as a tool, but it's a tool. Currently, as it stands right now, AI is a good tool. And so if you're an AI prompter, that's a good job. You could learn to prompt AI to get a lot more done. You could probably fill 4 office guys' jobs. So that's a lot of efficiency. But there's also a lot of inefficiency with it too, right? And I think there's a lot of hype around it where maybe there isn't as much realized value as they're predicting. And so I think that it's a lot like the dot-com bubble. We saw a run-up before it finally crashed in 2000, 2001, dot-com bubble as well. saw the exact same thing where it ran up like 40%. It was like 50% and then right down again. So historically that's happened again. We may not have seen the bottom yet. I don't know. The Fed has come out and said, hey, we're raising rates higher still. And the market's like, yeah, we don't trust you. You lied so much to us. Like, we don't think the market can handle any more rate hikes. And the 16 of the 18 council members in the Fed are like, yeah, we're going to hike harder. Like, batten down the hatches because banking crisis is going to get worse when we raise rates. They're not openly saying that, but that's what's going to happen. And commercial real estate, like office, malls, that's going to get just obliterated, right? There's a downward trend on office, commercial, mall, retail for like everyone to shop, like the people want to shop online. They want to do everything, you know, they want to work from home. So you don't need the office space anymore. Companies are like, look at Twitter, like they're just closing down their headquarters. They don't need it, right? So it's,
Hi, you can't
hey,
leave.
yeah, okay.
This is a rentable space.
I'll be out in just a sec. Just doing a live stream. Can I just have 5 minutes? Is that okay?
No, this is...
Okay, no problem. All right, I'll find you a spot. I guess that meeting room's a bookable room. We're gonna sit out here in the lobby of the hotel. All right. It's gonna be louder, guys, but we've relocated. All right, so we're talking about offices, talking about residential compared to commercial. So residential real estate is a lot safer, I think, in a lot of ways, because you've got this barrier of increased demand, right? There's just a ton of demand for residential space when people are immigrating like crazy into both Canada and the United States, right? So you've got not enough housing to keep up and a ton of demand. So you're gonna have that supply-demand imbalance. Whereas on the commercial side, yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna throw a fit. Like, I am a platinum member here, but like, whatever. It's okay. She could have been nice. Like, if it wasn't booked, she could have been a lot nicer and just like let me stay. I'm pretty sure like no one has this room booked at 6 o'clock at night. This random meeting room off the hotel, but whatever. It's all good. I don't wanna get into a thing. Yeah, would you imagine? Like, probably this is a courtyard, so this hotel probably, I don't know how many rooms this hotel has, but if I had to guess, probably like an $8 to $10 million hotel. I could pull off buying this hotel probably. That's like, ever seen that movie, Crazy Rich Asians or something? The start of it, I only saw the start of the movie, but the start of the movie was like that scene exactly where they basically buy the hotel and they're like, you're fired. So that would be funny, but no. I don't think the math would actually work. This hotel's too nice, and most of the really luxury real estate tends to cash flow really shittily. It's a nice sale, like they can bring, you know, a Chinese investor, an international Indian investor in, or some international investor from a different city come in, and like it's a beautiful hotel, and they can get a premium dollar for it. But where we actually make most of our money in real estate is buying the B-class, shittier stuff that isn't as nice, but still decent. And that's where we make most of our money, right? We want to be in that space where like we can work towards making the property a nicer property. But we don't want to buy the nicer property. There's no lift in that. There's no money in that, right? So, okay. Someone asked if I sold off all my properties. No, Joe, like I continue to buy because I have a pipeline of deals that kind of come in. So I have like maybe 12 or 13 properties in Canada on the go. And then I'm partnered up with, I guess, 5 properties in the US right now, currently. So that's what I currently got going on. I'm not anywhere near my peak. I've got a lot of cash that's sitting in a short position for the most part. I have some stuff that's all lent out right now as well, which like is not great for liquidity purposes if I needed to get cash quickly, but it is working for me and not losing money, at least. The lending stuff isn't losing money. Whereas in the short position, I'm down 25% or something. Just brutal. Like, I'm still pissed at myself for trying to think that I was smarter than the market and that the market follows any sort of semblance of reality when it comes to interpretation of data, right? Like there just isn't any following of the data. It just isn't something that the market follows. It can be irrational way longer than you could be solvent. So yeah, it's shitty. I mean, I'll probably be right when I shorted Newegg up to $70 a share, it's now $1 a share. So it went 70 to 1 in the direction I thought it would go, but I couldn't hold on as it went from 37 to 70, right? Like I shorted it the last couple days of its short squeeze and I couldn't hold on, right? This time I'm holding on my NASDAQ short, but at a certain point you have to abandon a short position because a short position, you can't win long term. Like the idea behind being short is you can only win in the short term. It's designed to be a hedge against your longer portions of your portfolio. So it really is one of those things. Is one of those things where you're better off closing your short after a certain amount of time. So for me, I decided 1 year. So I started shorting it around, well, I started shorting in December, then I went long in December. I bought Facebook, Intel, Amazon. I loaded up on Facebook at 90 something dollars a share, and I sold my Facebook at 130 a share. And I was like, I'm king shit, like this shit's overvalued. In January, you guys saw me, I was saying buy, I thought Meta was a fantastic buy. I thought Intel was a fantastic buy. If you look at those, like Meta was a great buy. It's now $300 a share, getting damn near close to. And like, that's insane. That's 300% change in valuation in 6 months. That's irrational. Like it was undervalued before, but way irrational given where the current discount rates need to be, given where interest rates are. So, but again, the market is irrational and it could price it however it wants. It could price it at 1,000 years of cash flow for break even if it wants to. And there might be some stupid investor who will buy that and hope to sell it to someone else for more. Because the only idea behind buying a company that doesn't produce enough cash flow to pay you back through dividends or through cash flow is either, well, really the only way out is to sell it to someone else for more. So when you buy shares of an overvalued company like Nvidia at $425 a share, you're believing you can sell it to someone else for more. And I mean, that's unlikely probably, but your only way out is that way. When I buy shares, like when I bought my shares in Intel and in Meta, I'm like, if I have to hold these for 10 years to make my money back, I can, because it was producing cash flow. It was a 12 PE. Now it's like a 40 PE, right? Like that didn't make any sense, price to earnings ratio. But anyway, it's, the market can be crazy. And so it reminds me not to short, because it really is one of those things where it can take a long time to be right, and you don't have time on your side as a shorter. Because in the long term, it's always up, right? Like the market if you zoom out over 5 or 10 years, real estate's just ripping up every stock on average on the S&P 500, the top 1,000 stocks, the NASDAQ, all of the indexes, they're all up 7 to 10% every year. So you're betting against that trend if you stay short for a long period of time. So I set a 1 year period, and I went back shorting in February. And so I shorted in February, I set a 1 year period. So by February, we'll call it January of next year, I'll have to cut my short if I'm wrong. If I get a point where we have a good 5 or 10% pullback, it's going to be really hard for me to resist not locking that in and closing out the short, just because, again, it really is one of those things where when you've taken a traumatic, like mentally, when you've taken $1 million, $1.3 million loss, and you get back, say, $400,000 or $500,000 back, the instinct is to want to close it out and just be done with the traumatic experience. And so we tend to, as traders, and I don't want to be a trader, but like, I'm trying to stop trading it. Whenever this short is done, I'm going to stop. I'm going to be no longer trading. I won't be daily checking my portfolio. I'll be monthly checking it, and it'll be only long direction. I will not be shorting anymore. If I do put on a short, it will be 3-6 months out, covered call on an existing equity position that I hold. So I'm not short, I'm hedging that long position. So that's my thesis. Because again, I know at my core, and I would, if any of you guys asked me, like, should I go and short the market? I would say no, you should hedge your portfolio. And you should put a short on equal to the size of your equity position to protect against downside. That'd be the most. And so like, why don't I heed my own advice, right? Like just crazy to me that, anyway, that I didn't do that. But yeah, there are definitely other ways. I see some people popping up with puts. You could buy puts for sure. You could buy long dated puts that would get less theta decay. I've been selling bear call spreads to define my loss while still collecting a theta decay. Lately, what I was doing was selling I'm selling bull put spreads and selling bear call spreads. So I was defining both ways in case it rips, but just collecting a bit of theta decay. That strategy worked really well until mid-May, when I decided just to short all out because things stopped making sense. We had a couple of really bullish days and like, this makes no freaking sense. And the market rallied another 12% from that point. And that's where I was 3-1. So I lost about 25, 30% of my portfolio. It would have been 40% of my portfolio, but I got faded decay. So those contracts paid me for the time value that I was short. And so I didn't actually lose the whole amount. I got some of that insurance premium. So maybe 10 or 15% of that was insurance premium. And so that helped me, lick the wounds a little bit, so to speak. So that strategy works really well if I'm neutral in my directioning. So if I'm not super long or super short, that strategy works a lot better than, say, just being naked short. But I'm going to hold out, and eventually I'll be able to close this short out, and hopefully I'm right. I mean, the Nasdaq's crazy. It could be in the newest bull market, but I just don't think all of the doors have knocked. I don't think we've seen all the pain that's to come yet. Especially, like, commercial real estate hasn't collapsed yet, and that's going to collapse the banks with it. So they'll be paying. Residential real estate will probably be okay, but the commercial stuff's going to get just slaughtered. And when some of these banks get defaulted on, and then they're going to have to call in their treasuries a huge losses, that's a problem. Unless the Fed backstops, which they tend to always do, or they redefine inflation in a new way, or they find some new way to make themselves look like heroes, kick the can down the road, and let Rome collapse later. I don't know. It's dangerous shorting against the U.S. government, right? Because again, they're in control, so they can't fail unless they decide they're going to fail. And why would they decide they're going to fail? Not on their watch. So I do think that there's a position where I'll switch from short to neutral, and maybe eventually long. My throat's killing me, guys. I had to wrap the stream up. I pushed as hard as I can. I put on my most amount of energy for you guys. I'm gonna need to go crash and fall asleep now for a bit because that was all I had pretty much. I'll do a quick lightning round. Totally agree with you, Pavel, about the Canadian government went mad. They totally did during COVID. Has having kids lowered or raised your productivity? Lowered it for sure. You definitely are less productive with kids. I mean, I guess if you're a shitty parent, you could be more productive, but to be a good parent requires sacrifice. And sacrifice, by definition, means less productivity. You can maybe learn to do more per hour, but you just have so many less hours if you want to be a good parent. So you just find ways to, from a motivational perspective, you have a new reason to hustle. So we can look at the silver lining, the positive. Gleb says, do you recommend investing in Southwestern Ontario, Michigan, or Ohio? I don't know a ton about Michigan or Ohio really, but if cap rates make sense and it's sustainable and vacancy rates aren't out to lunch, you can actually rent it and keep the building rented and justify those valuations, and they're really strong, like 10, 14 cap, 16 cap, yeah, go for it. That's attractive. Thank you, by the way, for that comment to resilience. I really appreciate that. QQ Crypto seems to be getting institutional dollars. Any recommending on what you think could be a good time to buy more? Well, I do think that I'm a long-term Bitcoin bull, but it's a very small percentage of my portfolio because, again, that bottom I don't think is in, but maybe the bottom never comes. Or maybe the bottom comes, but at the same time, there's upward pressure from all this institutional capital getting in on the spot, new spot ETFs that BlackRock's putting in. Into place. Maybe that generates a lot of extra capital. And extra capital creates a demand for Bitcoin. There's only so much Bitcoin, so the price would rise if there's a ton of demand and not enough supply to satiate that said demand. So it could happen. Could shoot up. If you told me Bitcoin's going to be $500,000 a token, it wouldn't shock me the next 10 years. But if you told me Bitcoin could also be $5,000 USD token in the next 3 years, 2 years, that also wouldn't shock me. So just know there's a lot of volatility and risk there. But I think that long term it's going to really be a great investment. So I don't know. I wouldn't bet the farm on it, but I love Bitcoin. Brad says better to buy a value add, duplex, triplex, or convert a single family. It depends. In some areas, yes. In some areas, no. Depends on the property, depends on the valuations there. In some areas, you get really cheap duplexes and triplexes for $100,000 a unit. And you can't even buy a single family for $400,000 in those same areas. And I'm like, whoa, why would you go buy a single family and convert it? It just depends on the area. There's no absolutes. But if the multiples are there to buy a single family and convert it, do it. Like in Toronto, you could do that. You can make $200,000-$300,000. In Sarnia, Ontario, you're not going to get that lift. Which trading brokerage do you use? So trading brokerage, I use Interactive Brokers. But I also have a Scotiabank and a BMO trading account as well. I have a Quest Trade too, but I don't use it anymore. Chuck says, lost my job yesterday as part of tech layoffs. Thankful I'm nearly FI. Hey, right on, Chuck. That's awesome. It's kind of like, maybe in some ways, a good thing, right? That now you have a reason to hustle to get that last little bit. Maybe pick up some gig jobs that pay better per hour. And maybe get a nice golden severance on the way out, like a nice parachute that gets you almost the way there. So in a lot of ways, it could be a positive. You never know. Are offices and shops becoming residential in Canada? In the UK, it's happening with permanent development. Yes, it's happening. There'll be more of those projects coming soon. And they actually, I think, during this next down cycle, where commercial real estate is next, specifically offices, retail, malls, some of those may default, or not some will, many will default when they were locked in at 3%, and it's now time for renewing in 2023, and their loan hasn't been paid down very much because it was a balloon payment, interest only, and they were at 2.5%, and now they're at 7.9 or 9%. And all of a sudden their mortgage payment, interest only, is triple what it was. And before they had a little bit of cash flow, but now they have to put in $20,000 a month into that mall, or $50,000 a month into the office building. Or maybe they're a little bit vacant right now too, because it's a struggle on both ends, both supply and demand are kind of crushing. There's way too much supply and no demand, so you can't rent anything out for long vacancy periods. Maybe they're feeling the pressure from all of those and they're dumping in money, right? And you can walk in there, take it over, convert it to residential, and make a cash gain. So there might be opportunity for that, yeah. Definitely, if you know where to look. I saw that comment about the rental space. I didn't even really know it was a rental space. It just was like a meeting room, so I didn't think you had to pay to book it. Found a way to measure a city or a zip code's turnaround point. I don't know what that even means. I don't even know what a turnaround point means. I'm sorry, that question's lost on me. Joe says, have you bought the place? Yeah. Joe, they are converting office to residential in Calgary. They even pay the developer $75 a square foot to convert. Now, interesting, because in Calgary, the price of real estate was really reasonable. I couldn't believe how cheap. Like a single-family house in Calgary was less than half of what you pay in Toronto. And it's a pretty big city. And like probably a quarter or like 1/5 of what you pay in Vancouver. And like Calgary isn't that much different than Vancouver. So it was kind of crazy to me how affordable Calgary real estate was when I looked around at it. Yuri went and gave me a little education too about some of his properties. So and then I went and dug on the MLS just to see what was up. Do you happen to have a rule for minimum cash flow when you look at a rental property? No, it just depends on the market, right? Like if every property in the area is a 16 cap and you're buying at a 10 cap, you might sound like, oh, it's a 10 cap and brag on social media, but like if the market's 16, 10 is shit. So if the market's 10, you get 16, that's great. If the market's 4 cap and you find an 8 cap, you're a genius. Because an 8 cap in a 4 cap area is like, it's like in a major metropolitan city with beautiful cap rates. You'd be getting a building at half price. Do you think a home should be fully paid off first? No. I don't believe in paying off homes ever. I think that you want the debt. Debt is good, and you want to have as much as you possibly can at less than 8% interest, 9% interest. You should be able to take that capital and invest it elsewhere and make more on the capital. Now, saying that, this year my capital has been growing at like negative 30%. So any money that I borrowed this year has just been I pay interest on it, plus I lost a whole bunch of money on it. So this year hasn't been the case, but over the last 10 years of my career, 11 years of my career, every dollar I've been able to borrow, I've been able to grow at such a large amount that I was able to make enough to service the debt and have a huge profit. So it's very rare that I would take a risk without a backup plan. Like in real estate, I can hold it, I can cash flow it, I can service the debt, I'm still ahead. Even if my appreciation plans don't work out, even if my value lift doesn't work out, and usually it does work out too, so I gotta stick to real estate. That's the conclusion here. Like I shouldn't really be messing around with stocks at all because I have the competitive advantage in real estate. And it's why like I keep buying, I just picked up like 5 more properties in Ontario because I just can't not close on these amazing unicorn deals. And so I've been diverting capital into real estate again to try to grow it back from what I've lost, I guess, so to speak. And like I was long last year in January, lost like 10-15%, and then shorted, made a little bit, went long, made a little bit, and then shorted a whole bunch of it as well, and lost some more. So it's it's fun when people are watching. It's like a live show, and I have people watching inside as well. They're like, "What's this guy doing?" Some media thing here in the lobby. I gotta wrap this up, though. I'm getting tired, guys. Nvidia P is insane. Still holding Intel. I think Intel still has potentially a good ways to go. So if I see another dip in Intel, I'd probably buy it back again. I think so too. I think Nvidia bulls are throwing caution to the wind and not counting in any possible commoditization of large language models, as well as the hardware too. Like, it's not going to be very scarce if a few competitors get into the place. And it's, again, some key staff could leave and develop better language protocols in the future. And so we don't know that what they have is special, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, I think, Pavel, the challenge is that you bought short-dated puts. You want to buy really, really long-dated puts. Oh, wow. Those are pretty long-dated. But again, it did have a crazy run, like an unhealthy run. All right, if anyone's watching this, hit the thumbs up button. That'd be appreciated. And yeah, thanks everyone for coming on tonight and asking some questions. Yeah, I appreciate everyone that came on here tonight and joining the stream. And anyone watching the replay, smash that like button. And thank you everyone for tuning in. You guys will. I also bought shorts prior to earnings on Nvidia as well, and also got destroyed. So I'm right on with you, and I still have a naked call and shorts puts that I bought, long-dated puts that are also being destroyed. And it's fine. Like, I didn't risk a lot of money on that, so it may end up turning out okay in the next year or two. We'll see how Nvidia plays out, but I think it'll be a pullback. Could be wrong. Again, don't bet the farm on these things. Bet the farm on things you can control. So in your businesses, in your real estate, things you are in control of the outcome. Like, if shit goes wrong, you can manage the property yourself and ensure you have cash flow. It's hard to lose money if you buy smart. Whereas you buy smart in the stock market, all data can support your thesis, and you can still get your ass kicked hard. So that's just the difference between business. Like, real estate really is just like you're buying a little business and you're operating that real estate business. So that's what I like about it in a lot of ways, whereas stocks are not a business. They're just speculating. If you buy companies for cash flow, like dividend portfolios, that's investing. Anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap up the stream. As always, the secret to unlocking it well through you, 3 levers and control your financial future: spend less, earn more, and maximize returns in the difference, I guess. Shit, sorry.